Hello and welcome back to another edition of the News Project Live on Facebook Live. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director here at GNAT-TV's News Project. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. Great that it's Friday. Hopefully a nice weekend coming up. So we just want to give a quick rundown of some of the local happenings of note, as well as a little bit of statewide news as well. Um, just to get us started, today, Friday, July 10th, in case you haven't heard yet, the Arlington Farmers Market will be opening for its first day, excuse me, of its summer season. Going to be starting today at 4 p.m. On the front lawn there of the Arlington Inn, where it's been in the past, same location. It'll run till 7 p.m. this afternoon, or this evening, I should say. Um, like every other farmers market I've ever been to, it's going to have lots of great stuff and good food. You can find a segment that we did about the farmers markets in general around the area, on our website at gnat-tv.org. Got some additional information there about the Arlington market. Like every other market, it's having to make some adaptations to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so there are going to be fewer vendors, and folks will probably remember from last year, and social distancing and face masks and all the rest. But still, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun, as well as a great place to buy some locally grown food and produce. Um, this just in, actually, down in Bennington at the Southwestern Vermont Healthcare, they've launched a virtual urgent care platform called Care QD. To improve access to medical care. The QD is shorthand for every day. And through it, the community can receive urgent care at any time of day, every day, 24/7, 365, I guess. Um, that can be accessed through a live, secure video connection on its website, which is careqd.com. Or you can also get a mobile app for your smartphone. It's secure, confidential, easy to use. You create an account online, and there's no cost to activate the account. So for those who might be interested in that, it might be a handy thing to check into. And you can probably go to the SVMC's website and get more information there. Meanwhile, up in Londonderry, a little bit of controversy has ensued around some graffiti that was sprayed on one part of Route 100, and also in neighboring Rawsonville and farther down the road in Jamaica, some graffiti about Black Lives Matter being racist was quickly removed from the road by the Agency of Transportation, but created a bit of a stir on local social media and I'm sure elsewhere around the town. Um, the select board had been considering a resolution about that, it opted to table it. This is a couple of weeks ago. But the select board chair, George Morris, said this Monday that racist intimidation has no place in Londonderry or elsewhere across the country, and basically condemned the graffiti that was sprayed on the roads. Um, there will be a vote on the resolution that the select board in Londonderry tabled, held at their town meeting coming up next March. Many other towns around the state are also considering similar resolutions, so we'll be following all of that as well. On a somewhat happier note, up in Londonderry, the town has voted to join the Deerfield Valley Communications Union District as they attempt to ramp up their broadband capacity and improve broadband service. The Deerfield Valley CUD is one of the communications union districts that's been forming lately. There's one in Wyndham region also as well as the Southern Vermont Communications Union District. Representatives from various towns in the Southern Vermont CUD, which basically covers Bennington County, held a meeting last week and heard from their members and also a few other folks who have been brought in to develop the feasibility study and business plan to move the CUD forward in terms of bringing better broadband service across Bennington County. Um, That's still in the very early phases. As you may recall, last week we reported that the Southern Vermont CUD had received a $60,000 broadband improvement grant or big grant, and we'll be moving forward on that. So more to come on all of that. It's of course very important, as we've seen throughout the last 3 or 4 months between education issues and work and just about everything else. Having robust online service has become even more important than it was even before the pandemic struck earlier this year. We talked about this last week also, but I just thought it might be worthwhile mentioning again that early voting has begun. It began on June 29th. Um, you should have by now received a postcard from the Secretary of State's office asking if you wanted to get a ballot mailed to you, because the big difference in this year's August primary voting, and that primary will be held on August 11th, is that you can request a mail ballot, or you can go the traditional route and get an absentee ballot from your town clerk. You can go online to the Secretary of State's website and go to a page there and request a ballot that way, or you can just go to the polls. But in some towns, it's going to be a little bit different this year. There may be a case where you will be driving into a parking lot and either getting out of your car and putting a ballot in a secure holding box, uh, and not going into the town hall or wherever the voting used to be held. The town of Manchester has announced a plan to hold its voting, excuse me, on August 11th at the Manchester Recreation Park at the Park House. Town of Dorset is also going to be holding drive-by voting at their town hall in East Dorset. It's very well set up for that. You can drive in one way and go out the next, and so that'll probably work pretty well. We'll be keeping track of other towns as they develop their plans as well. We also have a segment about that, which will be probably posted to the website sometime next week. A long interview with the Secretary of State Jim Condos, who explained a lot of what was going on, and we're just trying to kind of make sense of that because come the November general election, the state hopes to be able to send ballots to everybody by mail. So, and they're encouraging you to try and consider doing that to avoid having to go to the polls and, potentially poll workers, town clerks, and other folks might be, at risk of catching the COVID disease. So that will be the bigger change, really, in the November election, where those mail-in ballots will be mailed directly to you, and this the postcard mail-in for the primary is kind of an effort to help the local town clerks kind of purge their checklists and voter registration lists, so that come the November election, they have a pretty accurate checklist. And one last other thing, sort of related to that. Again, we talked a bit about this a couple of weeks ago, but the U.S. Census is being counted this year. Really important that you let the government know that you're around, because Vermont needs to have a good, accurate count in order to secure our fair share of federal funds that are allocated based on the census. You can go to censusus.gov, and I'm not sure about that one. I'm going by memory here, but I guess if you just Google 2020 census, you'll probably come up with it. But it's a really easy 5 minute or so experience where you just sort of check off whatever information they need, and you'll be counted. Also, a story that's sort of developing and one we're going to be watching closely in the coming weeks is planning for school reopenings. It only seemed a little while ago we were talking about graduations, and while school reopenings are still well over a month away, I guess it's going to be here before we know it. Obviously, there's been a lot of thought and a lot of thinking going into how to reopen schools safely, and a lot of discussion nationwide, as we all know, around this. it's been the state as here as well as elsewhere, of course, wants to have schools reopen and have the kids back in school for a lot of reasons, education, and also just to relieve the pressure on parents. Uh, but they have released some guidance that you can go and read in depth if you want to. It goes into a lot of depth. It's about a 25-page document that's on the Agency of Education's website. It's right there on their homepage. You can find that and really get down into the nitty gritty on it. But basically, there'll be a lot of restrictions around face masks and social distancing, and a lot of concern about how they're going to handle bus transportation as well. So again, we'll be following that locally as plans sort of develop because it's still really in a kind of an evolving state right now. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh yeah, this past Monday, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development and the State Tax Department opened a portal to local businesses, well, around the state as well as local businesses, to access COVID relief funds provided through the Federal CARES Act. Those you can still, if you're a local business person and you haven't tried to take advantage of that, I believe that portal is still open. These grants are intended for businesses who can demonstrate revenue loss in any 1 month period from March 1st of this year through August 31st. So if you've lost 50% of your regular income in a single month, you potentially qualify. So definitely well worth going through it. It is not a complicated document. I went through it myself just to kind of see how complex it is. It's really, if you have all your information handy, you can breeze right through this in 5 or 10 minutes. So definitely worth checking out. Otherwise, on the statewide level, today the governor at his now twice weekly press conference, they are now going to be held on Tuesdays and Fridays as opposed to Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays up to now. The governor announced a new $30 million program to aid landlords, renters, and mortgage holders who are struggling to keep up with their bills as the pandemic goes on. About 25 million of that will be made available to landlords and tenants who are behind on rent payments, and that of course makes landlords behind on their payments to banks or suppliers of services of one sort or another. The other 5 million will be for mortgage relief. So if you're having trouble keeping up with those payments, definitely worth looking at that. The state housing authority is probably the website to go to for more information, but that was just announced today, and I'm pretty sure that money will be opening up, I guess, by next week. Well, that'll do it for today. Hope you have a nice weekend. Hope you stay cool and stay safe, and we'll see you again next week on the News Project Live. Have a great day, everyone.